Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and today I want to share with you this card that I made and show you how to make this shaker card. Now this is a card that uses this beautiful mermaid stamp and sentiment from a new Honeybee stamp set called Ocean Bliss. I think she's just absolutely beautiful and she was so much fun to color. I also used the sentiment that comes in the set that says "Wish You Were Here." I used this this stamp set also from Honeybee Stamps called Under the Sea for a few of the little extras I have around the card. The mermaid image rather. I've used some of the shells, a couple of the fish, and some of the seaweed from this stamp set, which again is called Under the Sea. Both are brand new releases from Honeybee Stamps. All right, so we're going to focus today on how to create a shaker card. So I'm not really going to worry about the watercoloring of the background or the images today. If you would like to see how that's done, please leave me a comment. I would love to pop on and color the mermaid for you. The background to the card was literally just a splash of green watercolor paint from my Gansai Tambi watercolor paints, and then the top was purple, and I just kind of splashed it on and then left it at that. Nothing fancy or special at all to that background. So let me pull the card up here just so you can get a good look here. There's lots of glitter everywhere, which I don't think that the camera's going to pick up today, but it will show in the pictures, and I'll have those on my blog and a link to my blog in the description box below of this video. And again, if you'd like me to share with you how I watercolored the mermaid, please leave me a comment and I'll pop on and do a quick video on it. I will also have a product list on my blog of all of the markers and watercolor paints and everything that I used to create this card. All right, so let's get started on how to create this fun shaker card. The first thing that you're going to want to do is create your background, which I already, like I said, I did, and you can do that however you desire. You don't have to use these colors. You can do anything that you like, but this is the background that I came up with. And as you can see, every time you do this watercoloring, this is what makes it so fun. It's going to look a little different. As you can see on my finished card on the right, I did a few more layers to really build that color up, and it's a lot darker and more vibrant. And on the left, it looks more watercolored. Same exact colors of paint, just different amounts of paint that was put onto the actual card base. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you want a lighter look, just do one layer, which is all I did here, and be done with it. Let it dry or hit it with your heat tool. If you want it darker and more vibrant, just layer that color on top of each other. All right, so what I did is I first just watercolored the panel, and then I took a stitched rectangle die. This happens to be from Lawn Fawn, and I cut it out. Now you can use any rectangle die that you have in your stash. This happens to be an A2 size because I knew I wanted the entirety of my card to have this panel on it. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is a standard A2 size card front. If you don't have a rectangle die, you can simply use your paper trimmer and cut it down to whatever size you would like. Now I wanted a shape in the middle of my card to house the shaker bits or the shaker elements. So I just used this heart-shaped die. It's called the Wonky Hearts from Simon Says Stamp, and I used the middle size here. And I just ran it through my Big Shot and cut that heart right out of the middle, and that left me with this. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to create a card base, and I did that out of Nina 110-pound cardstock. It's just a normal 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 top folding note card, and we want to go ahead and adhere our heart to the card base. And you don't have to do it in this way right now or in this the steps that I'm doing. You could do this later on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You don't have to follow this order of steps if you don't want to. I just wanted to go ahead and adhere my heart down so that it was just kind of done and out of the way, and I didn't lose this little heart piece while I was working. So I'm just going to put some adhesive on the back of this heart, and I'll show you how I got it centered perfectly onto the actual card front. So I'm just going to put the heart aside for a minute. I have it all done with adhesive up on the back. And now I'm going to position this rectangular watercolor panel that we've cut the heart out of on the front of the card base, like it's going to appear when it's completely done. So in other words, it's a full A2 size card, so all we're doing is sort of lining it up even all around the sides so that it would look perfect if we were to adhere it down onto the card base. Now that we've done that, we can take our heart and just fit it perfectly in that negative space there, and then push down and pick up this part right here, and now our heart is down exactly where we're going to want it on our finished card base. So now we can set that aside. The next thing that we need to do is create a little window here so that our shaker bits, of course, don't fall out. And so what I did is I just cut a little square piece of acetate to go along the back here of this heart. Acetate is a fancy word. Really all this is a piece of overhead projector. If you remember in the, I'm probably aging myself now, but when I was in school, sometimes the instructor would have an overhead projector and they would have these transparency sheets and they would use marker and write on them and then wipe them off with water. So I got a box of these from Amazon, and I've been using the same box forever, but they are perfect for window cards. Or shaker cards rather, and you can buy them on Amazon in big boxes. Just search for overhead transparency sheets and you should be able to find what you're looking for. I wanted to use some strong adhesive for to adhere this acetate down so it would stay in place and I wouldn't have to worry about it. So I used some score tape, and I've already gone ahead and placed it all around the outside edge of the acetate. So I'm just going to peel the backing off now of my score tape here, and then we're just going to go ahead and stick this down to cover up our heart. All right, so we're just sticking this down, and this is probably a little hard to see because it is transparent, but hopefully the camera's picking it up. You can see that I do have now this window on my card. So now it's see-through, but there's this acetate window there to hold our shaker bits. All right, so now we want to go ahead, and if you can see on the finished card here, I have a little "wish you were here" sentiment on the actual acetate window, and I wanted to show you how I did that quickly. So I'm going to grab my MISTI. You do not have to use a stamp positioner tool if you don't want to. You can absolutely just use a clear block. The only reason that I like to use a stamp positioner tool is simply because sometimes you have to stamp it just a couple times because that acetate is a little bit difficult to pick up the ink. It can be a little difficult anyway. So I like to just use that stamping positioner tool, my MISTI in my case, just so I can stamp it a couple times if I need to. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just sort of lining my sentiment up here, and I'm using the grid paper behind. Since it's a see-through window, it's really handy. You can see the grid paper behind it and really line up your sentiment so it's straight. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to have my head in here for just a minute. But I just want to make sure it's nice and straight. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close the door of my MISTI. Now, the best ink to stamp on acetate is StazOn. And you could do white on this if you wanted to, or black. I decided to do black ink. So I have the sentiment over here on the door of my MISTI. I'm going to take my StazOn ink, and I'm going to get the sentiment nice and inked up here, and then go ahead and close the door and press down. And now open the door and see that acetate, it really likes to stick. So sometimes you just have to line it back up, and see it's very light, very light. So I'm gonna stamp it just a couple more times to get a nice, vibrant sentiment on this acetate here. Like you see in the finished card, I really want that sentiment to pop. Because again, there's going to be all those sequins back behind here, and so we still want to be able to read and see the sentiment despite the distracting sequins behind it. So that is looking really good. So I think we're done now, and hopefully you can see that here as I put it up next against the grid paper. You can clearly see "wish you were here." So just a nice little sentiment. I didn't want it too big or overpowering because again, we do have that the sequins to worry about, but also at the same time, I did want it to be fun. So let me bring over the finished card so you can kind of get an idea of where we're going now. So now we have our heart. All right, and we have our heart on our finished card base, and we have our panel here all finished in terms of the sentiment and the acetate tape to the back. So now we simply need to put some thick tape around the heart to enclose the sentiments inside. So what we're going to do that is I'm going to be using these long strips of I don't even know what you call them. Stampin' Up! Sells these, and I will link to them in the description box of this video because I think that they are fabulous. You get a long pack of them, just like this. These are called foam, they're called foam adhesive strips from Stampin' Up! And they come in a big package like this, and they're really long, and they are perfect for shaker cards. So let me show you how to do it. So you're just gonna pull a strip up from your pack here, and I'm just going to put maneuver this strip, if you will, around the heart. And these are very malleable, so you can really kind of bend them into whatever shape you want. And so just put it right up against that heart, but remember the heart is see-through, so you don't want to go into the heart, if that makes sense, just along the outside edge, because you don't want to see that foam tape through the acetate window. Okay, so now we're going to keep on going here, and we're going to start on this side now. Now make sure that you have all of your adhesive hitting each other. So in other words, there's no space. You want to butt this foam adhesive strip right up against this one that you've already laid down, so there's no gap where sequins could escape your shaker element here. And so now we're just going to bend and maneuver this one so it comes all the way down and around here, and then again meets this one head on so that there is no, again, gap in them. And now I like to just check the front just to make sure that none of that foam is showing through, and it's not, so we're good to go. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this. So now we have our heart protected, but we're not done, because if we were to put this down on our card, you know, put our sequins in and put this down, our card's going to be wonky because it's only has this foam up here. So there's nothing to adhere the card down here, and if we just use regular adhesive, it would look really weird. So what I do is I continue to use this these foam strips here and just cover the rest of the card with them so that the card is completely even. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just basically pretending that it's my normal foam tape that I would use and just covering the rest of the card with this. Now you don't have to cover every inch, you know, but just enough so that it's going to be even when you adhere this to your card base. So it's gonna take a couple strips, I think, to get everything that we need done. So all you're doing here is just covering a sufficient amount of the back of this panel with this sticky strip here. And again, this is the best that I have found, but you could absolutely use foam tape for this as well. You absolutely can. I just like how thin these particular strips are, and I can really get around the shapes that I need to. It's really, like I said, it's really bendable, and I really like that aspect of these particular strips. So again, I will link to them down below. All right, and I'm just gonna put some up here so that the little corners are not left out, and so that they will have a pop to them as well. Okay, so now we're all done with this. So the next step is to get our sequins. I keep my sequins in this container here, and I don't think the whole thing is going to show up on the camera. It's so large, but you can get this container on Amazon. It's very inexpensive, and it houses so many of my sequins. So I'm just going to get out the ones that I would like to use here and just set this aside. I just kind of wanted to share that container with you guys just in case you were interested, because it really has helped me out a lot. Now the two different sequins that I'm going to use, one is the kind of turquoisey green ones are from Craft Medley, and the purple ones are from Lucy's Cards, and they're called French Lavender. So these are the two that we're going to use. And what I'm going to do is, usually I would just go ahead and put them in here and in here where the acetate panel is, and then take all the tape off and put this down. like that. And that's how you create your card. Before we fill this with the sequins, however, I want to show you a little trick. Take your anti-static embossing tool. Mine happens to be from EK Success, whatever kind that you have. And before putting any sequins down or before removing your tape, get some of that anti-powder tool on the side of your adhesive, these adhesive strips. Just run it along the sides here. And the reason that you're doing that is so that your sequins don't get stuck on the side. You're taking the sticky off basically of the side of the tape so that your sequins don't get stuck and they'll actually shake when you want them to. Okay, so let's now take some of our sequins and we'll put them inside here. Again, we haven't removed the tape yet. That would be a mess, so don't remove your tape yet. We are still just at our removing sequin stage. All right, and I wanted quite a few in here, so I put quite a few. All right, now we can go ahead and remove our tape. Be very careful when you're doing this, because if you don't have a firm hand on the card, sometimes, and ask me how I know this, right? From personal experience, sometimes that those sequins will kind of jump around if you don't have, when you're removing your the backing. And if sometimes the card will give a little jerk and there go your sequins, and now they're all on the top of your sticky tape. So you don't want that to happen. So just have a firm hand on the card, or in this case, the little panel here. And I'm just removing all of the backings here of all of this little foam adhesive that we have down. Sometimes it wants to fight me, but it's not that hard to pull off. It's just being stubborn right now. All right, there we go. Almost done. Almost done. 2 more strips to go here. And as you can see, I really did put a lot because I wanted the card to be nice and even. If you're just doing this and going to hand deliver or not send this through the mail, you really don't need as much of the foam adhesive, but you do want it in all areas of the card because, like I said, otherwise it's going to be funky shaped on the card front. And you don't want that. You want it to be nice and even. Okay, there we go. So now all the backing is off. So now we just want to turn this around here and place this right down on top. Get it nice and even and push down. Turn it around, and there you have it. There is your beautiful shaker card with all your fun little bits inside of it. You can read that sentiment very nice there. And then to finish the card, all you would simply do is color your beautiful images, which I have done here on this finished card. And remember, these are from Honeybee Stamps. Definitely recommend that you check out their new mermaid set. But you could think of the possibilities. You could do different shapes. You could do circles. You could do squares, ovals, different shapes. You know, there's so many dies out there that have funky, unique shapes that you could do. You could do different color schemes. You could do all different kinds of images. You wouldn't have to just do kind of underwater type scenes. You could do anything that you wanted. So I just really wanted to focus today on how to do the shaker element itself. So I hope that this was helpful and makes sense. I felt like I was kind of rambling at times, but I was trying to explain it the best that I can. So please, if you have any questions, leave me a comment. And if you'd like to see me watercolor this mermaid, let me know that as well. I just didn't want this video to be too super long, so I didn't do it today. So that's it for today, guys. I hope that you will give these shaker cards a fun try. They are so fun to make. And I tell you, when someone receives one of these, they are absolutely amazed. They just love them. So they're great to give away as gifts. Thank you guys so much as always for stopping by. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.